Hello, and thanks for joining me today on Gears of Gear, episode number 245. Today's podcast is brought to you by Row Visual. Row is the leading LED creative display manufacturer in the industry. With adaptive LED platforms for every installation, they're committed to going the extra mile for any creative vision. Carefully selected high-end components, the latest technology, in-depth knowledge, and passion go into every product that bears the Row name. Being familiar with the challenges of their market, Row offers only the most intuitive solutions for the creatives, designers, and technicians who rely on their LED products to deliver a flawless performance every time. This quality standard is the reason Row has quickly become the industry standard, making its way onto stages and the big screen worldwide. Please visit rowvisual.com today. And today's podcast is also brought to you by AVL Media Group, your premier North American distribution partner. As the exclusive U.S. distributor for Midas consoles, Lab Group and amplifiers, Lake processors, Tannoy installation speakers, Clark Technique signal processing, Turbo Sound loudspeakers, and Aston microphones, they are committed to developing long-term business relationships with their partners at every level by providing outstanding pre- and post-sales service and support. AVL Media Group, your premier North American distribution partner. Visit avlmediagroup.com today. Well, hello there and welcome back. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. It's going to be another fun one. We have Bob Harmon on today, and I'll go through his bio and stuff in a bit, but most of you listening probably know Bob and have seen him at many, many trade shows, seen him when you're doing shows in Hawaii, seen him on our weekly Zoom calls during COVID, doing the most incredible show and tell. An incredible storyteller, a great friend, great guy, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. But, of course, my favorite topic lately has been AI, so I'm not going to disappoint you. Music creation, I've been looking at some of these tools, and, I've shared some of this information with you already. I wrote a couple jingles, I basically prompted a couple of AI programs to write some jingles for my company, and those turned out really well. We have a couple Geezers of Gear ones. Maybe I'll share them with you next week. Funny, I actually shared it with Sarah, our producer, who you probably remember very well. And Sarah, like me, is a bit of a technology nerd. She loves new tech and just figuring out what to do with stuff, how it works. And one thing you don't know about Sarah is that her husband is an IT guy, so he's a tech nerd as well. And so I shared a couple of these music AI programs with Sarah, and now her husband has been serenading Sarah with love songs that he has created using these AI apps. So it's pretty funny. In some of the big AI news that I've been reading about this week, you may have heard about this one. There's a fight between Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, and ChatGPT about this thing, which is quite funny, actually. So they've been demonstrating their new ChatGPT 4.0. O stands for Omni, as I recall. And there's some really cool new features, and I'm just starting to get some of them because most of them are in beta, and some of them will become released to paying customers, which I am one. And so I'm starting to get some of the features, but I don't have the full voice yet. And so there's some really new voice stuff where it's practically creepy. I mean, you can go and look for some of the, if you search for ChatGPT 4.0 demos, voice demos, you'll get, there's these, it's almost like, these future dating apps or something where it's a girl who laughs at all your jokes and tells you look pretty today, or you look nice today, or that suit is nice, or whatever. There's a thing where, he's wearing a hat and he's getting ready to go for an interview, and the ChatGPT bot tells him, that hat probably isn't very cool to wear to an interview. You should probably take it off. And because you can have your camera on while you're using this new version of ChatGPT. And so he takes his hat off, and then she says, well, maybe you should just kind of run your hand through your hair. You look a little bit messy. And so it's a bit creepy. But the story here with Scarlett Johansson is that she was propositioned by Sam and ChatGPT, or OpenAI, to become the voice of ChatGPT on this app. And it was because of her movie that she was in, I think it's 10 years ago, 2013 or something, called Her. And I don't know if you remember it, but Her was basically all about this stuff. It was somebody who fell in love with an AI bot. And so she was the voice for that bot. And so, I think it was almost like a funny thing that Sam thought it would really be really cool to make Scarlett Johansson the voice for this new version of ChatGPT. And her people, I guess, just didn't respond, or they said no or something, but they didn't want to be a part of it. And next thing you know, Sam Altman's coming out with this promotion for the new version of ChatGPT, and there's a reference to Her, like in quotes, and they don't talk about the movie or anything, but they pretty bluntly say Her. And of course, the voice sounds exactly like Scarlett Johansson. So now Scarlett and her people, her lawyers basically, are going after ChatGPT and OpenAI, saying that you basically generated my voice instead of using my own voice and me coming in and recording something. You generated my voice, you copied my voice, and now you're using my voice, and you're even referencing it with this Her thing. And so God knows she's probably going after them for $1 billion or some massive number. So that's pretty interesting stuff. But I do recommend you check out some of these videos demoing ChatGPT 4.0. And it's creepy. It's a bit creepy. I mean, I'm finding some really helpful things with it. The general AI assistant thing, the fact that it's going to become a very smart assistant, to me will be very helpful. But some of the creepy stuff is creepy, and I definitely don't deny any of that. Microsoft Teams, my least favorite, video chat service or whatever. I despise when people invite me to Teams meetings, but Teams has this new thing called Copilot, which was designed to, I guess, manage meetings, projects, tasks, all kinds of things. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't tell you how good it is, but people are talking kindly about it. Something that's not getting such kind response is Microsoft also created a new tool called Recall, and it claims to have photographic memory. And there's a reason behind that. It stores screenshots that it takes of your screen. It captures screenshots every couple of seconds, I guess. And of course, experts and security people, safety people say that it's a privacy nightmare. And I can imagine that. I mean, think of some of the things that are on your screen at different times. And, you don't tell it when you want it to take screenshots. It just keeps taking the screenshots. You can turn it off. It is voluntary. But I can't imagine turning it on, to be honest. Like, yes, if you look at it from one standpoint, it could be very helpful that, oh, when did I do that thing? What did so-and-so say to me or whatever? it can recall all of those things, but it can also recall all of the things you don't want it to recall. And I'm not necessarily talking about porn. I'm talking about anything, private conversations, whatever, mistakes. And then another one that I saw that was kind of interesting is something called Ask AI from a company called Superhuman, which allows you to basically ask any question of your email service. And like, for example, what time is my flight on Thursday? Or what time is my meeting with Bob? Or what did my wife tell me to get from the store? And it will find it fairly instantly anywhere in your email. Very useful. I mean, I could imagine using that 100 times a day where you don't have to go digging through email. And even though email search has become pretty good now, just the fact that you could just talk to your phone or your computer and have the answer instantly seems pretty impactful. So yeah, that's sort of my AI update today. A couple of things that Sarah wanted me to talk about. So ACT Entertainment next week, which by the time you hear it, it's still next week. From June 7th to 9th, they will be at Cinegear Expo in Los Angeles. Check out all their Grand MA3 session info and register on their LinkedIn page. Not sure much more about that. So yeah, our sponsor ACT Entertainment will be at Cinegear. Elation, who sets the industry's sustainability standard with nearly 1,000 solar panels powering its global headquarters in Los Angeles, California, and incorporating cutting-edge LED technology into its products. So Elation, that's big. I mean, 1,000 solar panels powering their headquarters. That's pretty cool. I didn't even know that. And I'm very friendly with Mr. Loader. He should have told me. And also just impact social media is having for Geezers of Gear, for our podcast, even TikTok, which I can honestly say I have no part of. I don't know anything about TikTok, but I know Sarah's been on top of it, is really, getting a lot of plays for us. So when you see these little short clips, the YouTube shorts, the reels, on TikTok, we're getting 1,000, 2,000 views on most of these clips. And, that's more exposure for our guests and certainly more exposure for our sponsors as well. So we love it. So today's guest, Bob Harmon, is one of the nicest guys in the industry. You've made a mark in the industry when Bob approaches you at a trade show and hands you a bag of incredible Hawaiian coffee. Bob started his first business at 12 years old and founded Eggshell at 16. This year, Eggshell celebrates 50 years. Eggshell Lighting Company has been a boutique production company holding the light and visual needs for all who graces their shores. They combine the sublime methods of lighting from the World Theater with speed and efficiency of touring road shows, an award-winning combination that ensures their clients get the quality of services they demand. I got to tell you, I think Sarah was drinking when she wrote this. From the smallest, most intimate wedding to a large-scale televised concert, they are confident that they can give you the perfect experience. We've all had the pleasure of having Bob on the podcast. We have had the pleasure of having Bob on the podcast twice already. The first time in November 2019, episode 58, and then again in November 2023, episode 206. So today we can celebrate 50 years of the Eggshell Lighting Company with Bob. So please welcome Bob Harmon. Mr. Bob, aloha.
Aloha.
How are you?
Awesome.
I know you've been sick, so I appreciate you taking some time and coming on and doing this. You seem like you're feeling a bit better, so that's good.
I'm always chipper when I'm on your show.
You're always chipper anyway. I don't know that I've ever seen you grumpy, but I'm sure you get there.
Well, so
we all
I
do.
got some ideas today. And I would say I was inspired because I came across a guy that,
Uh-oh.
yeah, uh-oh, I'm freezing
Where'd you
up.
find him? What guy is this, and how'd you find this guy?
No, I looked at like a turn of the century. It was modern art. It was an abstract, and I thought that's pretty cool. And I wanted to know more about this guy. And I
Yeah.
guess he was born in the 1800s, and well, the guy's name is Wassily Kandinsky,
Well, there's a
and
name.
yeah, that's just a mouthful.
Yeah.
Let me share a screen. I'm going to show you a picture of this guy.
Please. Yeah. Do
Give
it.
me a second, and I'll tell you why.
We have to explain pictures, remember, because there are a lot of
Yeah.
people, and Eric Loader is one of them, and we'll hear from him if we don't explain what, because some people just listen, right? And he listens in his car on the way to the office. So,
Okay. So let's try this. So here's this guy, and his
yeah.
artwork is in the background. Like again, he was born in 1860s. He ended up going through Russia and then and transferring to Germany. But the most interesting thing about this guy,
Well, 1 second. So there's a header at the top of the image right above his
yeah,
name that says color is a power which directly influences the soul, which is quite a statement.
it is.
Hmm.
It is. Now, you know, personally in the world of lighting and that kind of thing, I can listen to music, particularly when I have no background to it at all and have to listen to it and try to figure out how to do lighting.
Right.
Images will come into my head. The idea of certain colors or how I would think initially to present this
Yeah.
um, would come, but the background on this guy is another step that I can't even imagine. This guy has an affliction, or had an affliction, synesthesia. And what that meant was he would have more than one sense attached to another. So when he would hear sound, he would see, and particularly music, he would see color. And he became a musician so that he could play music and create color in his mind. And
Wow.
from that influence is where his artwork comes from. And I
That's
went,
wild.
I just don't know whether anybody else, maybe even somebody in the industry, has this, because even though it's rare, um, what an affliction to have. So
Well,
they,
I mean, especially in our industry, like, could
oh
you
my God,
imagine a lighting designer or a lighting director who hears music and it immediately translates into color and what that would look like? I mean, wow.
so I was reading earlier about this, and so that kind of became a theme for this thing today: is abstract and unusual and asymmetrical lighting and things.
So this
So
image we're looking at now, this is one of his art pieces?
that's one of his art pieces. But they
Uh-huh.
would explain it to me that as he would draw certain circles and certain colors, he would hear different tones.
Huh.
Yellow, in particular, would be trumpets, and there would be, you know, and as he hit the stroke of the ink or the pen, it would create an elongated note. And so,
Interesting.
to him, I would think this is sheet music,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's a really interesting concept.
So you're suggesting that looking at this image, which is filled with shapes and circles and lines and triangles and things, different colors, he would be looking at this, and as he's reading through it, it would become a piece of music.
I think that's correct.
Wow.
And I suppose you could dart your eyes from different parts of music, and it could be jumbled, or it might make sense, and maybe that
Yeah,
would lead to another piece of artwork.
that's
Um,
wild.
and maybe this is where the AI of lighting design will go. That's an interesting concept.
It is. It really is. But I wonder if this was something that inspired him or haunted him. You know what I mean? Like, is this something that drove, great music to come out of him, or it made him crazy and wacky music came out?
That's a really good question, but he certainly pursued it as a career, and it wasn't his first career. I noted that he became a lawyer, and he gave up all of that background when he was inspired by music. He
Seems
picked
like
up
a
on
natural
Rainbow.
progression. But so what is there any recorded music that he's got out there that Like, have you found any of his music yet,
I
or
I
just
have not.
the images? Oh,
I
okay.
just the images and the affliction that he had.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
never heard of this before, but it
Huh.
kind of takes me to a whole different subject, and that is um, there's a lot of things in lighting that are purely symmetrical, and if you're doing a television show or something, and they want to know where certain lights are in certain places.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's encouraged because you know, then the TV guys just go and do their own thing. The
Uh-huh.
same is true with stage lights and the like. But as people try to fill the screen of a video screen, or maybe their laptop, maybe they're using previs and that kind of thing, and they're creating lighting design.
Uh-huh.
It's like they've got a canvas that must be filled, which takes me to a subject of, are people losing the impact of a single light?
Huh.
And I'm going to take you there in a second, because one of the really early things I ever saw, and I hadn't really picked up doing lighting yet, but it was the first time I noticed lighting for what it was. So Cat Stevens played in Honolulu,
Uh-huh.
and this, you can see, it's 1974. It's in May. By the way, my first concert with me running aboard would be September. So this is obviously
Wow.
triggering me to a direction.
Yeah.
So he's obviously at the top of his game at this point in time. But the simplest thing I saw was he went over and he played at the piano, and a cathedral window appeared behind him. And it wasn't that unusual to have a Lico that would have a cutout of a cathedral window for the sake of the set.
Yeah.
The interesting thing was how they did it. And this is how they did it. They used two separate Licos. They shuttered off half the image in each one. They made sure that this Lico picked up the front face and the nose of Cat Stevens, and this one picked at the back of his head, the two joining to be a simple composite in the background. Now, with the audience providing haze at the time, if you know what that means,
Yeah.
um, what that in effect, a picture window appeared, light broke from the window and parted around Cat Stevens.
That
So much
is
more impactful.
wild.
And it's the power of a single light.
How'd you get this information?
Because I saw the two Licos on the stage, and
Oh,
on
oh.
stage in front, and I put it together, and I went, "Oh my gosh, that's
That's
light!
wild.
That's when the light went on for me." So, the other thing is going back to filling the screen, because we're so used to, filling it up, that a lot of people forget that the absence of light, black, is a color.
Yeah.
And to have something break that light can be the most impactful thing. It's one of the things in moving lights and the like, and you could actually do this with a moving light that had shutters nowadays. But at the same time, would you stop for a minute to think the impact of that moment could be created? And that's all you need, kid. And
Yeah.
that's something that could be missing for the intro of something. Anyways, um, I
That's
think
such
that's,
a subtle but very cool concept. I mean, two Licos with that sort of half a shutter
yeah,
is what a cool idea. And like you said, I mean, the impact that it had on total darkness created such a cool. That's awesome. I love it.
absolutely. So that took me down this whole train. Honestly, a couple hours ago, I wasn't exactly sure where I was going. I wrote down disjointed things I wanted to say to you today and to do
I
this.
like that. I like
But at the
that.
same time, I started going into, so what are the things that are out of the box that isn't symmetrical? And, today's, today happens to be Thursday. It may not be when you see this, but,
Yeah.
I write stories on Thursday. So this
Ah,
is one of them that I
right.
did, was on Nick Sholem. Nick Sholem was, and still is, he's still alive. He's in London, we're still friends. But he sent this plot to me. And by the way, this is early enough. This is this is the 91, 92 tour. So this is done on a simple Mac that I would have, and I would print one page at a time, piece it all together, hand fill the information into these lights. But as you can see, and I think, are you able to see a cursor?
Yes, of course. Yep.
Great. So you had this beautiful, just bank of lights down the side. Of course, these are 6 bars, par 64s. Moving lights aren't quite a thing yet. Truss
Yeah.
spots are real, and even those are placed asymmetrically. And the interesting thing was he took the 6 bars and I went, oh, what a pain. They're meant to go in pre-rig truss and pop out. I mean, I got to pull them out and hang them 90 degrees? Yes, that's what you need to do. Okay, got it. So, and he did this so that lights would, you've seen this in modern day when you see particularly, Korean musicals and shows where the lights are just everywhere because the lights seem like they're more economical in Asia, but they will just draw you into the stage. And that's what this was all about. And, it was kind of magical stuff. So this is where the light went on for asymmetry. It was also one of the first times, you talked, we'd done backdrops before and they were always straight.
Yeah.
He had us put in an extra motor so that it would bend around and give us more dimension for people viewing stage to the offset.
Huh.
And I've been going back to simplicity. One of the things he had me do, it wasn't really unusual to have like pars that light up a truss. And in this case, they had color changers. Ooh. But the more interesting thing was he had me, this is pre-rig truss now. He had me take 2 plates of wood, pass it through, with bolts through that opening that would be, the open space in the pre-rig, so that I could take a mirror mylar and paste it to both sides of it so that the one light would shoot one way and reflect back again, instead of having to put another fixture here and having a dead space. And it worked brilliantly. It's just simple things that work. So
I love that the asymmetrical. I'd love to see pictures, which I'm wondering if they're coming next. But I'd love to see pictures of how that actually looked.
I can't find any shots from this time period. But I'll tell you where that took me. That certainly was an inspiration for me. So I started doing things that were in asymmetry. I worked for the Brothers Casimiro here. Now, the Brothers Casimiro, yes, they were 2 brothers, and one played a brilliant guitar, and he could play flamenco, and his brother played an upright bass. Together, the 2 of them just had magical voices. Mm-hmm. And of course, there'd be hula dancers and everything else. Now, their producer, who also recorded their records, was a gentleman by the name of John DeMello. He gained the nickname Cecil B. DeMello because his shows were unbelievable. They were just pieces and parts. Sometimes it would be giant pieces of material that would fly off. Other times we would just, in this case, I started hanging a truss and he didn't like trusses. So we started lighting the roof and doing breakups. And I would just, I got this truss and we set it up at an angle, and that was great. And we put an industrial fan that would be on one side, and we did that backlight, and that had its effect. He went out of his yard and he got this leaf, and that too needed to be part of it. So this got me on this whole train. By the way, I think this is out of order.
Hi, Nick.
This is Nick Sholem.
Yeah.
That I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
But then because of Nick, I started designing shows that look like this.
That's wild. I like that.
Yeah, this is simple. Martin lights, the early Macs, if you will. And pars. But the pars are loaded to one side. The drape is pulled on the opposite side, kind of in balance, but nothing in balance.
Yeah.
And layered. As you can see, this backlight is lighting this gentleman, and he's in its foreground because of the angle of this light. And the other 2 band members are lit from the side. And that's me doing this show. And you can see even with pars bringing fleets of lights in. So
I like that look. That's cool.
So it was simple, and this is stuff I started doing. So now, because of the Nick Sholem story, and because that was Sting, I started thinking about the Police. And I did the Police's first concert. I'm not sure if it was in America. I can't verify that entirely, but it sure seems like it was one of the first, if nothing else. So we were going to do a show at the campus center. I'm going to go offline with the pictures so I can just talk to you about this for a second.
Cool.
Hold on a second, because I think that's important. So, campus center ballroom, and I'm still quite young, and I've been asked to do this group called the Police, and we're sitting there going, well, this is great. We all know their hits, like Walking on the Moon and stuff, but how do they set up? How many guys are in the band? And I looked around the room at the promoter and 10 other people, and for gosh sakes, nobody actually knew. And the assistant to the promoter said, well, we need to get on that right away. So that takes me to here. I'm going to go back to, this takes just a second. I'm sorry.
That's funny, though, that they didn't know.
No, we don't have a clue. So that takes us to this. So this shows up at my door like 2 days later after I've gone to this meeting. There's a at my door, and in those days I'm probably scared a bit, and it's TNT freight, which would later be absorbed. I can't remember by whom, but I think it was Federal Express. Could be wrong, but TNT is J. Robert Harmon there, and of course they hadn't announced they were from TNT yet. All the more I'm a little paranoid.
Yeah.
And he says, this is for you. And he hands me this envelope. And you open this up, and it says, a special message from A&M Records for the attention of J. Robert Harmon.
Yeah.
And this is the first page as it comes out. I don't know if I can go in on this, but this guy's definitely an executive. How can I help you? This is kind of a strange 70s background. The non-corporate
awesome
mentality, it says down here, by the way.
I love that.
So then that takes us to here. The drawing, the band. Sting,
oh, my goodness.
Andy. Drum.
And the record company sent you this?
I think Sting wrote this.
Oh, wow.
I think he drew this in the back room, because who else would care about an M89 sitting over here?
Yeah.
And this is the bass rig and lead and the rest of it. So I'm sitting there, they had gone to so much effort to send this to me. I'm really impressed now, going, oh my gosh, they sent this to me overnight. This must have cost them, I would say probably $200 or $300, and you have to multiply that times the time period. And I think they spent $1,000 to send this to me.
Have you ever thought to have the handwriting analyzed on this or anything, just to try and figure out if Sting wrote it?
It's an interesting question. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's also like written in the first person, like Andy, as opposed to guitar over there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm inspired, and I'm trying to figure out what can I do for these guys. It's still conventional light time, but I've got the license to light this group, and they're cutting edge. So I took a crank up lift and a security mirror. Now, I took that security mirror and I put it at a 45-degree angle, hung from a crank up Vermet. And yes, I know Vermets have an awful reputation, but this is back then. Nobody cared. So I had somehow, which I can't remember, came across the engine mount for a DC-9, probably a DC-6.
Just happened to have one laying around.
I came across one. So anyway, sort of at a 45-degree angle on a cranked up lift, the base of that lift buried under the stage of the drumster Copeland. I mounted this aircraft ring, and it had fixtures mounted to it, and it had this mirror that was there. And around Copeland's setup, I had strip lights. Now, I hadn't realized exactly what I had created, but we're going to come back to that for a minute. Yeah. Now, I really liked the look of very narrow pars, and because they were the brightest thing in the room. And if turned vertically, they were a thin shaft of light. And
Yeah.
in wide, it could kind of cut a rectangle a bit. So, anyways, but I have a limited amount of lights, and I've got them on some, TV antenna tower, crank up front truss, and in the back I've got this lift, and on the floor I've got these very narrows. And what I did is I would shoot them up at this mirror. It's convex, so now what was a tight beam makes splashes of color out into the audience because it's diffused and it's big and it's wide. And I pick up guitar solos and or sting at his microphone also by banking it off the mirror.
Yeah.
Now and so you'd have the intensity of the very narrows shooting up at the thing, and you'd have these whites or these colored splashes of color coming off of it. They thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
And it was pretty hip. And even more so in the fact that the mirror was there at a 45-degree angle. In the world before iMag, people could watch Stuart Copeland play the drums from above him.
Yeah.
And they were mesmerized by that. And it was really good. Anyway, I was invited upstairs after the event. And there's kind of an open air place that they use as the backstage space for these guys. And they gave me this. And this is their promo record.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And you can buy this. Years later, when he played Honolulu, I asked him to sign it.
That's cool.
So that's where that went.
Wow.
So
that's really cool.
Asymmetrical leads to all kinds of things. And I guess I was doing things that were out of the box to begin with, so I was kind of ready for it all.
Yeah, that's really cool. Let me ask you something, though.
The show, but I wish I had a better one. But you can see how young they were at that time.
Oh, yeah, that's wild. Yeah, look at Andy. Let me ask you something, though. Like, have you ever tried to take a story like that and sit down with a young lighting person who's in their 20s, who's only ever done shows with moving lights and with MA consoles, has never seen anything other than that, right?
Well, yeah.
And explain to them how you went about that and why you went about that and the effect you were able to produce, and how do they respond to that? Because like I could just go grab a Robe BMFL and do the same thing in 2 seconds, or whatever, right?
Well, yeah. And I think that was my point, about all this, is that you've got the impact of one light. But if you're really worried about, oh, yeah, I saw that video and stuff, and there were all kinds of lights and that kind of thing, there's a tendency to want to do that.
Yeah.
To try to replicate that. And I think people miss the power of a single fixture. If I didn't have that and I wanted to bring mirrors into play, to do things that would be, not the first thing you would think to do.
Right.
And I think those things are lost.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. Well, and I mean, with the advent now of AI, so many things are going to be lost. Like the process of finding things and researching and learning and all that stuff. If I can just go to every answer instantly, I'm not going to go through the journey of finding those answers, and all of the sort of ancillary things that I learned along the way, are going to be gone. And
I agree with that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's sort of the whole topic of life is a journey, not a destination, and maybe imagination and knowledge is a journey, not a destination. And so maybe that's the downside of AI and all of this instant.
Well, I think as soon as it becomes something that you watch, like television, then the machines are teaching you.
Yeah.
You're not going through, how could I build this for myself? The art side of it might start to go away. I suppose.
Yeah, they're not teaching you, they're giving you the answer.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's even worse.
Yeah.
And I used to think it was kind of, going to school had the limitation of a teacher's curriculum, would teach you certain things. But no offense, but how I started, which was I had to build the lights and that
Yeah.
kind of thing,
Yeah.
gave me a different perspective. And that's been
Mhm.
super valuable. And I don't think you learn that in class, because the class has to be accessible by the greatest number of people and the success of that. And now
Yeah.
you, as you mentioned, now AI is actually supplying you the answer. I hope we don't become dumber for it. I hope
Well,
we can maintain its limitations and utilize it as a brainstorming thing, perhaps.
yeah, I think it depends on the person. It depends on the goals that you have in getting information or things from AI. You know, I know from my standpoint, and people who listen to me will argue this because they might think that I'm an idiot, but I become smarter by way of AI because it gives me it makes me more curious, and it makes me, you know, I'll give you an example. So there was a guy on Joe Rogan, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, last week. His name was Rizwan Virk, and I had to look at it because I would have forgotten his name again. But he spoke for probably 2 or 3 hours, mostly about something that I don't know if you've probably researched and written Thursday stories about this, but the simulation theory. And are you familiar with this whole topic?
I'm not. I'm fascinated. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can only take you so far down this journey, but basically the simulation theory says that we're all living within a simulation. And, you know, this isn't like real world like we think it is. We're living in a simulation.
Right.
And so this guy's not a nut. This guy's an incredibly smart individual. You know, he's very, very successful. He I think was a creator of video games and coding video games and stuff, and sold a couple of companies and got very wealthy and became a venture capitalist. You know, the typical Silicon Valley story. But now he teaches in you know, the biggest and brightest universities about simulation theory. And so I'm learning about this, and there's this thing called I think it's called Schrodinger's cat. And it basically, it's a concept that says that, you know, you put a cat in a box with some poison and something that activates the poison or something. I can't remember the whole story, but basically, and then, you know, somebody opens the box a period of time later and you find out whether the cat is alive or dead. And so you know, a lot of the scientists behind this say that the cat is neither alive nor dead until someone opens the box. And
Ah,
so that's at the foundation of it, is the cat is suspended in this sort of both alive and dead, or neither alive nor dead. And then they take it even further, you know, and it just becomes this sort of concept. So I'm listening to this for like, I usually listen to podcasts or books on my walk. I go for a 5 or 6 mile walk every morning and I listen to
right.
stuff. And I got home and I couldn't shut it off because I was so interested in it. So I listened to this for like 2.5 hours. And then the next day, my girlfriend puts on this Apple TV show, and they start talking about this Schrodinger's box on this TV show. And I'm like, what the hell just happened here? Because
Wow.
I had never heard about any of this stuff. And now all of a sudden I'm watching a series about it. And it's called, I think it's called Dark Matter or Dark something. It's actually a pretty decent show.
I
But
actually started watching that the other day, and actually, once you started talking about what the subject matter was, I didn't know the names that you had mentioned,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I was reading about the concept of
yeah.
realities and everything else.
Listen to this guy. I'm telling you, like this guy is I still think it's a nutty concept, the whole simulation theory concept, but I don't know, man. He starts convincing you that this is probably very likely here, you know. And it does away with a lot of the Big Bang theory and the Adam and Eve and, you know, all of this other stuff because, you know, the whole thing is a simulation.
Oh my God!
And so, yeah, it's nutty. It can really take you down a path. But
So,
so where else did you go with this?
where else did I go with this? Um, For today, I think that's pretty close. I think
Yeah.
the whole idea is, I started going, what has been an advantage to me in
Yeah.
life, and I would say, uh, my father and mom were kind of creatives, but not creatives. I mean,
Yeah.
I've talked to him before. He was into so many different things and started so many different businesses and the like
Yeah.
that. I think the most powerful thing I was ever taught was I was never told, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's a limitation to so many
Hmm.
that once you can just go, well, I might not be able to because I don't feel like it today, or
Yeah.
but I never would stop to go, well, it's a matter of money. Well, I'm done with that. I found
Yeah.
money, and I
Yeah.
found ways to build things, and yeah, I think the concept of never learning no
Yeah.
is a huge power.
Yeah. No, it's totally true. I mean, breaking the conventional ideas of doing things, like the asymmetrical lighting design,
Mm.
and uh I love it. Like when you look at some of those images that you were sharing, and hopefully anyone who's listening to this will go back and watch it on YouTube or Spotify, but when you look at some of those images, like it makes me bored of symmetrical designs. Like it makes me want a whole bunch of moving lights on one side and a few park hands on the other side, or some follow spots on the other side, or whatever. Uh, I like it. I think it's a killer look. It's a really cool look.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it fits with you're telling the story. The
Hmm.
musicians are telling you their background, where it comes from. If for a moment it's shadowy, that's okay.
Yeah.
Shadowy might be the inspiration, in a bar or in a place where somebody was when they thought it through.
Yeah.
It is true that so much is done for video because the audience, there's 1,000 cameras in the audience and the like, and I hear all the time where musicians you know immediately get pictures of their own concert sent back to them, and they're not well lit to see their entire face, and
Yeah.
they have they have something to say about that. But I
Yeah.
can tell you the shadowed face of Cat Stevens, is it correct to say that you could be hundreds of feet away and without the benefit of IMAG, and your mind filled in that moment that you shared with him?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And
totally true. Yeah, it's totally true.
some of that's getting lost.
Oh, so much of it is getting lost. Like, but I mean, lost or evolved. I don't know.
Well, and equally, I think you can take a huge stage and you can still have that concept. I'm not saying everything should come down to 24 bars again,
yeah.
but I am saying that I think you can have 1,000 lights in your rig, and for a moment, a single light can carry the day.
Yeah.
And maybe then you can come back from it. But if you want the audience to quiet down,
Yeah. I agree with you. I honestly, and as much as I'm in the business and you're in the business and I've been in the moving light business for a long time, I'm getting bored of these 1,000 moving light shows. I really am getting bored of it. And I miss the nuance of having, like I've overused this story that Brickman shared with me on the podcast, where he talked about doing Neil Young at Coachella, and everybody had, thousands of moving lights at Coachella. And he comes in with his lighting plot, and it's 16 follow spots.
wow.
That was it. That was the lighting rig, right? It was 16 follow spots. And he said so many people came to him and said, "Oh my God, like that was a moment. That was a moment." And I love that. Like I love that it becomes all about the artist at that point. It becomes all about Neil Young. It's not about this incredibly wild light show that you've put on. Um, but again, thank God for massive light shows, because they keep us all working and spending and making money, hopefully. But yeah, I think some of that's gone forever, and some of it's just gone until somebody's brave enough to go back out and do that kind of stuff.
I was thinking of one other. I thought of another show for a minute because it's not really entirely in line with this, but it's when simplicity carries a moment. I did a show with David Crosby at the Hawaii Theater here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just the LD. I was mostly using house lights, trying to figure out where to go with it and the like. I had taken the strip lights that were over the stage, and I'd aimed them at out into the crowd. So, anyways, it was kind of an interesting result because
you just had people walk through your office, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Hold on,
it's all good. No worries.
Let me go back. David Crosby. I'm doing a show.
Yeah.
And I'm using house lights and the like. And we have strip lights that are, I aimed into the audience. Of course, I put specials in, and I'm running the house rig. And I'm waiting for the audio guys to show up because they have like one tube that carries the audio sound cable. And that's where the light cable goes to. And they have to go both at the same time.
Yeah.
So I waited for him to show up so we could run the stuff together and we could get on with our day.
Yeah.
And he did show up late by about an hour, and when my back was turned out, I told him I'd waited for him so we could run it together. When I turned my back and come back again, he ran his and didn't take my cable at all.
Wow.
So now, time is nigh. So I'm sort of going, well, what the hell? I'll just run it side stage. That's what this is going to be. And David Crosby comes up to me and he goes, "You're going to run lights here?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, and I started to go into the story about the sound, how the sound. And he pats me on the back and he goes, "I think that's great. One of the band."
That's funny.
Awesome. And then
I thought you were going to say, no, that's the audio cable.
No, but so this is an audio board.
Yeah.
No, but then the lights that I had aimed out into the crowd, some of the people with the facility, they came up to me and they went, you're blinding people. You got to turn those lights off. I know it kind of looks cool and everything, Bob, but we really can't have that. And just as he starts to turn, having told me my discipline, Crosby comes back over to the side stage and leans into me and he goes, "The lights on the audience? Nobody's ever done that for me before. I can't quite hear as well as I used to, and I don't quite see as well as I used to. So I can't hear the audience or know how they're reacting. But because you lit them up, I can react. And we're on fire tonight."
That's awesome.
And it was just like, so some things happen that aren't planned.
Yeah.
That's how it relates, because sometimes just thinking the simple answer is going to be your most effective. I don't know how that went for the next guy who did lights for him. Maybe demanded that he sit side stage like I did. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
For him, it was a highlight of a show.
You know what's funny, though? It reminds me, the audience or someone coming and saying, those lights are hitting people in the audience and they don't like it or whatever. It reminds me of something that Steve Jobs said when he launched the original iPhone, the first iPhone. And he said, we've heard nothing but complaints and just people saying you're completely nuts not putting a tactile keyboard on it because, the BlackBerry owns the market. Like, that is the hottest device out there. You don't have a shot. You don't have a chance to compete with the BlackBerry if you don't put a tactile thing on there. What are you thinking? People want a keyboard. And he said, sometimes you need to teach people what they want. Sometimes they don't know what they want, and you have to teach them what they want. You have to show them what they want. And he's right. He's right. I mean,
you have to do that to be a leader.
Yeah. Well, and also explaining to the audience or the person who complained that the artist is much happier when he can share the performance with you. And in order to do that, he needs to be able to see you. And when he can see you, you're going to get the performance of a lifetime out of this artist. If he can't see you, he's basically singing to himself, And So again, you got to tell them, you got to educate them, and not just go, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about,
You show
but
them the way.
show them the way. Exactly. The thing that AI is not going to do, AI is going to show you the answer. Here's the correct answer. I'm not going to show you how I came to this answer, what route I took to get to this answer. I mean, you can certainly ask that question, but the short version is going to be, what is the answer? And as lazy as humans are, we're just going to go straight to the end game. What is the answer? I want
I'm
all the
afraid
answers.
that's true. Um,
Yeah.
there are people like Bob Boniel that are certainly kind of cutting edge with all this, and certainly
Yeah.
using it for inspiration, and
Yeah.
doing very, very well with it.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah,
it,
I gotta get Bob back on to talk about it, because I know he's as addicted to the topic as I am. Last time he was on the podcast, we talked a bunch
absolutely.
about it, and I talk about it pretty much every episode now. I talk about some of the different AI things that are happening out there, and because in our industry, and for good reason, and for good reason, people are a little freaked out by it. Uh, People assume that the next thing that's going to happen is going to put everybody out of work. You're going to have self-programming consoles and moving lights that maybe don't even need consoles. They just kind of do stuff, right? And certainly there's an ability to get to some of those places, but I don't know that there's a desire or a market to get to those places right now. Like, nobody wants self-programming consoles right now. Certainly, if you could make it a little bit easier so you don't have to do the tedious things that you have to do every time you set up a console or whatever, like get rid of some of the boring things. But
Well,
anything that
it'd be
requires
nice to be able to
creativity.
talk to your board. It'd be nice to be able to, in the third party, just be able to step out almost in front of the console and wear a headset and go,
Yeah.
if maybe if we could set the red lights alternating in color between red and a blue green coming in from the stage right. And I'd like to just have it start. And you could actually do programming by discussion, by being the artist looking at the canvas. I could
Yeah.
see great value.
Well, you could do that today. And so again, it's gonna come down to a console company, a control company, being brave enough to come out with that type of a feature set,
Hmm.
and an audience that wants it. Really is I think the combination that needs to happen, because if the audience is like, if you ever put AI in a lighting console, I will never use your products again. And so then the company has no incentive. Companies create new products because there's an incentive to create those products. There's a market that wants them and will pay for them. But if the market wants the opposite, you're probably wise to follow the market, I guess, in this case, right?
Well,
So,
maybe they have to call it moving light assistant rather than
yeah.
AI or
Yeah.
something.
Well, and it should be lighting design support, lighting director support. It's not a lighting director replacement. It's a tool that will help the lighting director be better, do his job better, do his job
I
more
hope that's true,
efficiently.
and I'm anxious to see it.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Well, and I think what you just explained is a very, very good application. Where you can walk around on the stage with or in the audience with a headset on and just be talking with, not to, talking with the console, where the console is actually answering you back and saying, "Oh, do you mean like that look we did in the last show where we had the 42 Mac auras or whatever?" And you go,
Yeah,
"Yeah,
and
just like that,
I think my
except."
response to would be, yeah, but let's keep your solo out of it that you did.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah. And by the way, you're freaking me out. Quit talking about this stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, it's cool. I for me, I'm happy to be alive right now, to be seeing all of this. Like, if you
It's
think,
pretty amazing.
as much as I'd rather be 25 years old again, that would be really fun. But you know, I think it's really cool that you and I basically saw, at least for me, more of the end of the transition from black and white to color television. But I saw color television come out. I saw, remotes for the television where you didn't have to go up and turn the knob anymore.
I'm pretty sure I was the knob from my brother.
I was the knob. Yeah, I certainly was the knob for everyone, not just my brother. But, you know, cordless telephones. Remember when we didn't have cordless telephones and we had one phone in the kitchen with like a 40-foot coily cord on it that was always wound up all over everything and tangled in a ball about this big.
Yeah.
And then you get to
And the
things.
brick.
Yeah, well, way before that, I mean, the personal computer. Like, remember when no house had a computer in it? There was no such thing. And then all of a sudden, there's these Commodore 64s and Atari computers and all this stuff, and eventually the Apple II and Lisa and Macintosh, and so I mean, we didn't have personal computers back then, let alone cell phones that were 20 times more powerful than the original Mac 2 and all that stuff. So and then cell phones, like you said, the brick and the bag phone. And
Oh yeah.
so music, like if you think of music going from what was the original speed? Was it 78?
Yeah, 78
Yeah.
RPM.
And then to an album, a 33 album, and
35.
then
Yeah.
a cassette or a 8-track tape, a cassette tape, and those advancements were huge at the time. Going from an 8-track to a cassette was like, whoa, and I can record my own. These are amazing. And then all of a sudden you got CDs, and now all of that stuff is archaic with the music we have today. So
I do find it interesting that I guess people don't make near as much money on music anymore, and they make a lot more on touring. And that is a big flip.
Yeah.
In the 70s and
Huge.
80s, it was your record that gave you money.
Yeah.
And the
Huge.
touring was in support.
Yeah.
And that's certainly feeding the large lighting rigs that are requested now. And at least here, for the longest time, they got away with the smallest amount they could. And the onset of MTV was suddenly, our shows don't look like that. Why don't we see that show?
Yeah. I remember.
That was great to me.
Yeah, I remember reading an article one time about Rush, and go figure, a Canadian bass player singer, who was a Rush fan. Guilty. But I remember reading an article, and this was before I knew Howard, and it was just talking about how it was really hard to tour in a band because you didn't make any money. You were out there just supporting your record sales, and it got into some of the math, and it would say, like, I don't remember the exact numbers, but let's say the show, each stop is bringing in $200,000, and that breaks down to blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, each band member gets $1,000 per show. That's what they get paid. They get paid $1,000 per night, the three guys in Rush. And I was like, what? So, but fast forward, like you said, like the whole thing has flipped. Now they don't sell any music anymore, but oh my God, are they selling concert tickets? It's incredible. It's incredible. And, I was talking to a lady this morning who, she's actually the crossing guard by my house where I go for my walk every morning. And she's a big Florida Panthers hockey fan. And I know she's got season tickets. So we started talking about, I'm going to the game on Sunday and she's going with her husband. And we started talking about the cost of tickets for hockey. And I said, well, have you seen concert tickets recently? And she said, yeah, I work for Live Nation at the venue right up the road. And it's unbelievable what people are paying to go see a country band. They'll pay, $250, $300 for tickets to go see. And I don't want to pick on anybody, but name the band, really. And I'm like, yeah, it's amazing that there's that much of an appetite right now and half these bands are playing in stadiums too, like more than half, like anybody who's big.
Brings up an interesting question. So should people in the lighting industry be more worried about the onset of AI, or should they be worried about Apple Vision and one concert playing to the entire country and charging pay-per-view and possibly taking out some of the local markets?
It's an interesting thought, but I think one thing COVID taught us is that people actually want to be together. And
that is the correct answer.
Yeah, there's a huge difference between watching something on that Apple Vision Pro thing, which is pretty incredible, but I was never a fan of the virtual stuff. And, if you want to be with a crowd at a concert seeing a band live, you got to be in a crowd at a concert seeing a band live. You
Sure.
can't replicate it. It's just
And,
not.
and I think it's important that for the artist that not every show is a replication of the last one either. You
Mm,
know, everybody remembers the special moment when somebody came into the crowd or invited somebody up. And I guess it could be canned, but at the
yeah.
same time,
Well,
you
I
know,
remember all the other weird stuff, like getting, stoned the first time and falling down the stairs at a concert, or going to Judas Priest with my buddy Julius, who did acid at Judas Priest. We were probably 16 years old, and he did acid at Judas Priest and fell asleep. He did
oh,
acid at a Judas Priest concert and fell asleep and slept through like 2/3 of the show while I just had a great time. I was partying. Uh,
Lord.
yeah.
I hope
So,
when he woke up, he told you that his visions and his dreams were amazing. But maybe,
yeah, he didn't know where he was when he woke up. But, I mean, those things, like, I think half of what we experience in life isn't necessarily, that main focus, that band that's on stage or whatever, but it's what happened. Like you said, it's the people in the audience, it's those connections and the different things that are happening. Now, the older I get, the more I sort of swing towards the Apple Vision Pro.
mm,
Like, can I sit on my couch and watch all of this? That would be fantastic. You know,
well,
so
I did an interview the other day, and we were talking about some of the things that really turned me on in the business. And I said, the one thing about music, when you watch a television, when you go to watch a movie, you're going to experience somebody else's moment, and they're going to tell you a story. That's
mhm.
kind of a given. But music, maybe a second only to the sense of smell, it will bring back memories to you of who you were with, the moment that it was, the excitement, maybe some bad as well as good, but nothing triggers memory like listening to a song again. And
That's such a great
that's,
point. And everyone's memory is different. How that song makes everyone feel is different, and
I heard somebody say that your music is within 7 years of when you graduated high school. It could be
huh.
up to seven after, it could be in the middle of that or whatever. But
Yeah.
that used to be your go-to music.
So
Uh,
what if you didn't graduate high school, or you just hung up on Led Zeppelin forever or something?
that maybe
Yeah.
that's it. I'm pining to be more and more adventurous in my music selection, so I'm not going to college.
Yeah. That's
Um,
funny.
yeah, I don't know, but and that brought up a different conversation, which was as a lighting director, it's important for me, even if I don't know the music and if it's not my forte, I have to listen to it to
Yeah.
enough times to know the impact and what's the hook, what is the message, what's going to bring the audience into this and closer to the artist. And
Yeah.
uh, and if
So
I fail to do that, then I failed.
do, do different lighting designers or directors or whatever um, get their inspiration from different sources? Like, for example, might one person sit down with Elton John and say, "What is it that you want?" And would another person, obviously sit with the artist and say, "Okay, what is it you want?" But then get their inspiration from the music, not from the artist's words.
I've seen so many different approaches, and um, since the onset of computers, I've had people go to Google Images and what do you have? What's in your head for this song? And like light casting through a window, and I want to see that. And maybe that's where AI comes in. But
Yeah.
I'd rather see the light through the windows of the train station of New York, and then go off and how we're going to explain that rather than AI telling me then you should do this.
Yeah.
So
Y- y-
that
y-
maybe that wraps that all the way around.
it's funny you say that, because while you were saying it, I'm sitting here scrambling, looking for an image that I want to share with you, because I had an idea in my head for an image that I wanted. four geezers of gear for something. We're doing a newsletter. Now, where the heck did that image go? We're doing a newsletter, and there's a section of the newsletter called Spotlight on Guests. And
Mm.
it's basically, hey, here's Bob Harmon, great guy, blah, blah, blah. Here's some really cool facts about Bob Harmon. And so it's just basically, it's a spotlight on prior guests. So I wanted an image, and I went, of course, to my friend at ChatGPT and said, here's what I want. I want blah, blah, blah. I want, people doing lighting, doing sound. I want X number of lights. I want this kind of stuff. So here is the image that it created. And it was all good until you realized that this guy has two arms. Or three arms, I should say, two on one side. Yeah. He's got three arms.
Ultra efficient, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm like, what's going on here? And one of them has a microphone in it, and the other one has a wrench or something. But and I didn't even notice that at first. I was like, yeah, this is basically sort of what I wanted it to look like. But this is what AI does all the time, and sometimes it's easy to see, and sometimes it's not. Like, you might have to generate this image 20 times to get it to spell spotlight correctly. And you can keep saying, ChatGPT, you screwed up the spelling. Please check your spelling and get it right. And then it'll spell spotlight correctly, but it'll change something else. And you're like, oh my God, like, please go back to this image, fix this, do this. And so it's not like it's a no-brainer kind of version of easy. It can be a little bit of work to get it right. But
interesting.
yeah.
I wonder if, going back to the topic I started with, can you ask Chat GPT or AI or whatever you're going to be consulting to, okay, I want the image, but I want you to think in the abstract.
Yes, you can. So what it won't do is it won't doctor up images of specific people. So like it doesn't want to, if I say, give me a picture of Bob Harmon with, a green mustache or something, like it doesn't do a lot of that kind of stuff because it doesn't want to venture over top of copyright or, personas and all of these different things. But it will create a guy with a green mustache that looks very similar to you if I give it a really good description.
Wow.
But yes, if and we could do a screen share later, and I'll show you how some of this stuff works. But it will do whatever amount of information you put into it. It will do that. So it'll say, in the style of Da Vinci, I want you to create an abstract image that blah, whatever. And you can put as much detail in there, and you can say, I want it to appear as though I'm standing on the left side of it, and I want it to keystone based on me standing 12 feet to the left side of it. Or like, you can just get into so much detail, and it does a really good job. But as soon as you put words on the screen, it'll spell them wrong. Like, wow. That's the thing. That's the weird irony of it all. Like a word so similar or so simple, like spotlight. I swear to God, I probably had to prompt it 25 times to get it right, because I don't want to have to go into Photoshop and start changing things and fixing things. I just want it to spit out what I want. Right. So, and except it's got three arms on it. So now we're going to use that image, by the way, and people are going to probably hear me now, but people wouldn't have noticed, I bet, for the most part, that guy had three arms. Yeah.
I'm kind of running to the end of my time here, but since we've been talking about virtual assistants, I want to tell you that I think your assistant Sarah is doing great things for you.
Oh, thank you very much. She's an amazing person. She's a good human. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. She works very hard, and she's been a game changer for the podcast. We've grown since the beginning of this year when she started 3 times, and it just keeps growing. So now this is becoming like a real job for me, which is cool. I like it. It's fun, and I get to sit around and talk to amazing people like you all day. Yeah, so I appreciate you saying that. Sarah's a great person. And if it weren't so late in the day, she would have been with us on here. But She lives in Greece or Crete. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a bit late in the day for her, but thanks for saying that. Well,
No
I
worries.
appreciate you as always. And a couple of things that we forgot to talk about. You won the Hometown Heroes Award for Regional Lighting Company.
We
Uh,
did.
very cool. I believe it's your 50th year anniversary this year.
It is.
This is quite
And
a year you're having.
yes,
And what else was there here that Sarah? Oh, so this came from Sarah. Sarah said, it's obvious that Bob is an extremely generous man because pretty much all of his Facebook posts are donations to friends and family charities.
ah,
And that was one of the things that she discovered when she was researching you. So um, it's all true. You know, you're just one of those super kind, wonderful people in our industry, and there's a lot of you. And I appreciate knowing you, and I appreciate you coming on.
absolutely. Call anytime.
Thank you.
Aloha.
And to you.